right now the project is to write something that sells the concept of Apocalypse Sasquatch. And so I wrote a 10-page story about it. I've always approached those kind of things as like, well, this is going to be the first scene of the movie. That's what I'm going to write, or the most important scene of the movie, or whatever.
This is Truly Independent, a show that demystifies the indie film journey by documenting the process of releasing independent films in theaters. Each week, Garrett Batty and I, Daren Smith, will update you on our journey, bringing guests to share their insights into the process and answer your questions.
Okay, welcome to another episode of Truly Independent. I'm Garrett Batty, and with me as always is my wonderful co-host, Daren Smith. Daren, how are you?
Hey, so good. Man, I'm so good, but I'm also so sore. I started assistant coaching my kids' soccer club team, and everything hurts, Garrett. Why did I do this to myself?
It sounds like a pretty legitimate organization if you're calling it a soccer club. I mean, it's
a club team. It's a Liverpool International Academy. It's legit. It's very, very,
Oh wow,
but, man. Yeah, I just I'm showing my age and my lack of running ability this week. Anyway, that's what people came here to hear about, is my sore calf muscles.
We have with us. I'm always intrigued by it, so thank you. But it's good to hear that you have a life outside of this podcast. And you know who else has a life outside of this podcast? Speaking of segues, is our guest today, McKay Stevens. McKay, how are you?
I'm good. I'm just happy to be here. I feel a little bit out of my element, I guess. So
I hope not.
I don't know why, McKay. I mean, this is as I can tell from you, and I should introduce you based on the background posters, because I think if people are viewing this, they'll see that you and I have a lot of the similar, in fact, same background posters. That's how long we've worked together. So I don't know how you feel out of your element. Probably just because this isn't a big movie set. And I'll give a shout out to Apocalypse Sasquatch, which is just an amazing poster and such a fun short that I had nothing to do with except for coming on set and supporting.
Saving the day.
Okay.
I thought that I could walk in and first AD my own short, and I just was totally lost the whole day. It was only a 2-day shoot, so then it was a phone call to Garrett saying, "Please come and help me. Please save me." I don't know how. I'm too much of a people pleaser to know how to keep this thing running.
That would be the favor returned then for you saving me on those other films. So perfect. I think we're even now based on that one day.
That's what happened. Yeah, we're even. So I'm just going to go ahead and hang up. And
no. Okay, we want to hear about you. Daren, you've been super patient. McKay.
And then we got one more though. We got Freetown.
Oh,
it's down. It's right.
Freetown.
Yeah, I was hiding behind you.
Look at that.
You got my Freetown here. So we've got some history.
So we've got some history, and the fact that we're still talking is telling.
That's true.
Telling McKay, how forgiving you are. Go ahead.
I got really excited when I saw that you were guest appearing on our show today, because I've known of you for a long time, but I don't think we've ever met except for today in this moment. And so,
yeah, I don't believe so.
I know you as a producer. Are you a multi-hyphenate, like producer, director, writer, editor, etc., or like are you like straight up, I'm a producer, that's what I do?
I have a hard time with associating titles in absolutes for myself, just because I think that successful independent filmmaking requires a lot of hats. So to publicize oneself as hyphenated so and so and so and so, really what you're saying is I'm an independent filmmaker. That's kind of the way I see it. I don't like, personally, I don't care to attach much in terms of titles, except for when the project comes up, then whatever titles that I'm using, then I'm useful. It's useful for the job, it's not, I always feel really presumptuous when I try to, like, I don't know. This is why this is so new for me and very uncomfortable for me. It's because I don't like.
It's hard to define.
I don't feel like I don't feel like I'm a guy who can just, like, I don't know. I'm not going to create Udemy course. I don't know if that's still a thing, but like I'm just gonna do a job, like I've done all sorts of different things in all sorts of different roles, and I've driven 50-foot RVs around locations
Yeah.
for 2 weeks on Sally Carmichael and other things like that. But um, so I'm just a guy who likes working in film. I don't know how to.
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable uh, titling myself in any other way.
Gotcha.
And somehow, though, from what I know about your experience, I mean, you are, yeah, I mean, yes, by default, I guess, by definition of that, you are producer, because you are able and capable in doing any job that needs to be done, or figuring out who you need to bring on to get that done. And I've always been very, very impressed by that. Um, uh, can you give our listener um, some sort of context as to what you're doing now? Like, where are you now with your TV series and
Sure. So currently we're wrapping up our fourth and final season of a show called Come Follow Up on BYU TV. It's a 6 season show. We took it over after the second season, and when I say we, I mean myself and Go Films with Adam Abel and Ryan Little. I've worked closely with them for quite a while as well, um, and they BYU approached Adam and I and asked us to take over
reinvent?
this after the second season. Yeah, to really say, hey, how would you do this if this were yours? And so Adam and I worked on a few different pitches on how we could do it. We really narrowed it down to one that we really liked, but then pitched 3 concepts to them for what kind of changes we would make, how we would uh, improve what the offering is based on the opportunity. And that's not to say it's like anybody who had worked on it before. Christina Toriente is a great friend and did amazing work with not a ton of resources on the work that she did on the show, and so they selected the one that we thought that they would, um, and kind of revamped the show from seasons 3 through 6. So we're just in the final few weeks, maybe a couple months of post production on that show. We shoot 52 episodes in a 9 week period, um, and so we're at 200 episodes, or we will be 200 episodes in by the time we're finished up. 208, I guess. So um, finishing up on that, and now it's development time. So anybody who's in independent filmmaking understands how that's a very difficult, stressful time, or it can be.
Yeah. So
Had a couple of yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
before we leave, like that show, which I've watched you over the past 3 or 4 years now on that. From, hey Garrett, I'm going to pitch this show, or at least pitch a rendition of this show that would take it in a different direction, to it being kind of their number one show or one of their top shows. Have to be careful because Daren produces on Relative Race, or did. So
Did.
at any
Past
rate,
tense.
I've seen you just take on every role and deliver everything from, hey, I'm pitching this show, to now I'm producing and now delivering. Like, you're managing all the posts and everything, delivering those 52 episodes a year, and it's just been incredible to watch. What are some of this season on Truly Independent? We've been talking a lot about pitching. So, what are some of the things that you feel like were effective in pitching this series that 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 allowed them to greenlight the show?
I think that there are 2 important factors that worked not only for this show but for other pitches that have been successful in the past and recently, and that is, I think, the 2 key components that I have learned is that, one, you have to find where you're passionate about it. Um, I I had to figure out what version of this show is something I'm excited about, uh, that I could fully be passionate about, because whether you realize it or not, that passion bleeds into how you present, how you pitch, what you prepare. The second thing is knowing what your client is actually asking for, more so than how they've detailed what they're asking for. Because more often than not, I think you guys will agree that you'll have somebody come to you with something and say what they think they want, their interpretation, but they've taken it a couple steps farther than their experience will allow them to. But it's their own iteration of like, well, we think it should be this, we think we should go this direction, because they're just trying to get it to a spot. But understanding where's the what at its root, what are they asking for, what's the core ask here, and doing that helps define what your pitch is going to be, even if it's not exactly what they have told you they're envisioning. It still matches up with the idea, but then they look at it and say, oh yeah, that's what I wanted that the whole time.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't look that way. Sorry. And I know that's kind of an abstract way to put it, and hopefully there will be another opportunity or so through this process, through this conversation, where that I can be more specific about it.
Well, it's hard to tell new filmmakers that that's the way it is, but it's the way it is. We've all pitched that network. We've all pitched TV show ideas and movie ideas and short film ideas, and we've tried to raise money and get partners and all those kind of things. And it's really what you said. It's like you don't know what works until it works. So you just keep going and you keep iterating and you keep trying. And sometimes you go back on the same idea and you go, well, here's a different way, but it's the same core. And you never know until it happens. And then you go, oh, that worked. Yeah. And then you try to reverse engineer. Well, what about that worked? And you can do that to a point, but at some point in the process, you kind of have to go, well, I can try to do the same things again, but it probably won't work for the next guy or the next company or the next streamer. And so it's this constant process of, I have faith that doing the work of putting a pitch together and taking it out to the industry is going to lead to a show or a movie being financed or distributed. And I don't know how it's going to happen. You have to constantly balance that every single day.
McKay, how accurate was the experience then from pitching and Greenlight saying, hey, here's what I'm passionate about, here's what excites me about this show or this series, and I want to take it to this level or in this direction, to delivering that first season? How much did what you pitched match what you delivered?
The unique thing about Come Follow Up specifically was that there was already a version that existed, and so it was easy for us to have a comparison, a contrasting show to say, hey, this is where it is, this is what we want to do. And so there wasn't a whole lot of difference between pitching our concept and then executing on it, mostly because it was making modifications to a system that had already been put in place.
Okay.
And so I think that, but I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that in most, possibly every other case that I've had in that situation where I'm not in which I'm not taking over something that already existed, there are quite a few changes from pitch to execution. And I have to remind myself that in my experience, the what you're selling during a pitch is the pitch, and what you're executing on is what comes next. It's what you pitch to them may not be. You have to accept that what you're pitching to somebody may not actually be what ends up happening, but it's close enough. It's in the same neighborhood of where they want it to be and where you think it should be, that once you execute on it, nobody's going to look back and be like, well, on page 3 of your deck, you said this and you did this. That's just not a reality. Yeah. It's can you take that higher top down look and then say, okay, this requires us to execute this a little bit differently than we pitched, but that doesn't matter because we're still staying true to the spirit of what this concept is.
Okay, I need that quote on a T-shirt. Like what you're pitching, what you're selling in the pitch is the pitch, because that's like a light bulb moment for me. Uh, see, McKay, there's this level of brilliance you bring that.
I did it.
When did you say your
Thanks for
courses
having me,
went out
guys.
again?
Okay, so that really just kind of caught my brain, and I'm kind of noodling on that and processing that right now. I'm in the middle of two of these things right now, two pitches right now. That mentality could be very, very helpful. What you're selling in the pitch is the pitch. I mean, ultimately, you have to deliver the show, but if you can't get your foot in the door, if you can't say, "Here's a creative take. Here's my idea that is going to be different, or that is going to bring my passion to this project," um, if you're just pitching what everybody else is already watching, then yeah, maybe
Well,
that's the problem.
let me say this too, that I my wife has called me out for this several times. She's been a very close creative partner through my entire career,
Can you
and
pan right and just show
uh,
her? I'm sure she's there right by you.
I've got her in
She's
IFP.
here.
She's just me what
Don't
to
say
say.
that.
Um, no, but so we spent years with me working on this script. I have an affinity for uh, like dystopian sci-fi type stuff, and I've always wanted to like create something in that world. And so for years, I was just like nerding out, writing about it with zero outlining, zero preparation, just kind of like writing scenes and wildly unorganized and unprepared. Um,
Not results driven, I'm
and
guessing.
then yeah, no, and then I mean, it was just purely like just writing to write.
Yeah.
And when if she ever struggled to sleep at night, she'd say, "Hey, tell me more about that pitch." I'm not joking. That is legitimately true. And then she would fall asleep to me telling her
Oh,
about
man.
this idea.
Sounds exciting. Sounds very
um,
exciting.
yeah, it was exciting. I mean, in my head, it was bonkers. Well, so then I took uh, a sharp turn the wrong direction, in which is, well, not that that was the right direction, but I then began to write or prepare what I thought everybody else wanted. Here's what so and so wants. Here's what they're looking for, and I would dismiss my own
Oh,
interest in a topic,
Yep.
write what I thought,
hang
or
on, McKay.
prepare a pitch for what I thought
Yep.
somebody else was going for.
Wait, pick that up again. You're
Did I
saying
freeze?
you were writing what everybody else wanted.
Yeah. So I would try to anticipate what a client or a financier or whoever what they were wanting, and then I would put something together, show it to my wife, and she'd be like, "This sucks. This is not good." Because you're not, she's like, "Yeah, I don't
I
see
think I
you
lost
in
you.
this at all."
I'm really impressed at how far back you were able to scoot. I didn't realize your room was like a mile long.
Yeah, this is Garrett's former office,
Oh,
actually.
nice.
So,
Okay.
I'm
I
glad you
a
left all
big
my
space.
posters up.
Yeah. When I say I worked on these films with him, I meant I came in the room while he was hanging
I
up the
saved the.
posters.
I worked on these posters. Uh,
Yeah.
no, that's
Okay.
not true at all, listener.
So yeah, to get a clean version of you sharing that story, like you were pivoting from your wife telling you, putting your wife to sleep with your story to like getting into not doing what people wanted, but something else, something along those.
Yeah. So that was a growth moment for me in terms of developing something and preparing it to pitch. Was that I had started with, I'm just gonna wildly chase what I want, and hope that it has some sort of meaning to it, to I'm gonna wildly chase what I think other people want, and it had the same impact. Basically, it was, this isn't going anywhere. There's nothing new or unique. I might as well have been using, like, just typing into chat GPT, do all of this, no notes, great, print it, send it, let's do this. um, and so especially in the last several years, it's been a process of learning how to combine those two
Mm.
elements, where to lean on those strengths of what they want, because that's not something to dismiss, what another party wants, and what about that is something that I can be passionate about or have a vision about, so that when I'm sitting in a meeting and having a conversation, the decisiveness about what I want to do and how I want to do it is an invaluable impression to make on somebody that you're pitching to.
Okay, literally, in that actual real sense of the word, uh, had this conversation with somebody yesterday with a client that I'd pitched project to. And again, this is a client that came and said, "Hey, we'd like a commercial for such and such, whatever campaign, and here's our creative brief on it. Can you give us an RFP, or can you give us a bid?" And I had to sit there and kind of process that, like, what about this process excites me, or what can I pitch that I'd be excited about? So I pitched this concept of, hey, we're gonna do your creative brief, but we're gonna use like a motion control bolt, high speed moving camera. That to me was exciting. Like, that's something yeah, it'd be fun to jump into this commercial, and here's the budget to do that, and that's kind of the cost of my passion. And he called back and said, "Hey, we actually loved it. Nobody ever pitches that angle, and it's kind of fun. And yeah, let's look at doing this together." And then he started saying, like, okay, no, based on our creative brief, what about these points and these points and these points? And I was able to, just like you said, say, look, I I pitched the idea or pitched the concept, and my goal ultimately is deliver what the client wants. So all of those things, all of those variables that you're asking about, if that's what the client is wanting, I'm happy to deliver that. I'm there about the client's success. What excites me about this project are these three things. If we can fit those in, awesome, we got a deal.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
what you're
Yeah.
saying is applicable. Sorry, that was a
Well, I
long
wonder if
story.
you. Well, I wonder if you won the thing I bid for as well. So,
Oh.
'cause I had one. I sent one out a few days ago that I actually wasn't able to. I wasn't able to finish it on time, and they extended it by a couple days for me. And my deck was very much. Uh, it was an interesting exercise because I didn't have time to do everything that I needed to do. So what I ended up doing was writing personal experiences into the deck that related to the
Oh,
stories that they were asking for in the brief. I'd never done that before. I've always just relied on my ability to write, to, like, create some story, some visual aesthetic that they can pull from those words. But it became a much more personal experience, just saying, I remember going to my grandparents' little red brick rambler home in the summers, and we'd have water and cookouts, and there was something real about that I was like, I don't have anything else because I don't have time, so I'm just gonna go for it and see what happens. Now, that sounds very inspired, but I also never heard back. So
That doesn't
so
mean it won't work
take,
next time. So
take from that what you will, but
that's
yeah,
very funny.
but it was still a good exercise.
I
Well,
bet.
if it is the same project, you'll probably end up working on it either way. So there you
Hey, you know what? That's kind of how this works, isn't it? That wouldn't be the first
go.
time.
No, it would be the
So,
first time it goes this direction, but that's
so McKay,
There's so
I'm
many.
curious because you said that like you're wrapping up this season and you're starting to shift into the same, mindset place that Garrett and I are in this like development and pitching and trying to raise money for projects. So tell us a little bit more about the approach that you take when you're going, okay, I'm shifting into development and pitching mode. What does that look like? And what are the things that are kind of top of mind for you when you're taking project or projects out into the industry?
It looks like a lot of procrastination is what it looks like, and then brief snippets of hyperfixation on something. So, um,
sounds
I
about right.
I like you can tell when I'm in development mode because my office has never been cleaner. Um, you can tell that I'm in development mode because I've sorted coins for some reason. I don't know. Uh, I've hung up LED lights in random places in my house. I don't know. Like, there's just things that, all these
All these things
jobs
that
that
can
it
now
just
get done.
suddenly need to happen now. And what I found is that as I'm doing those dumb things, something will click. I'd say the first thing that I'll usually turn to is like, what's the lowest hanging fruit that I'm interested in? Because there's always going to be lowest hanging fruit that you're like, no, I'd rather pack it all up and go work at Costco than do that job. And
So low hanging fruit
but
meaning like, okay, here's a couple of client projects, or
yeah,
here's a
just some
short
stuff
for
on the
one of us to
radar.
work on.
RFPs will come in. Whatever. There's random stuff. We had over the past few months, we were in negotiations with a pretty major brand name, and um, ended up backing out of that deal. But it was several months of negotiating and budgeting and planning, and it just ended up not being the right fit. But it was something on the radar, and it was something that I thought could be interesting to do, interesting to pursue. It was very different than anything that I have been doing, and
Who was
so
it? Can you
um,
tell us? Can you tell us?
oh no, no, I cannot. I wish I could have.
Oh, tell us.
If things had gone differently, I would be able to tell you more about it. Um, it certainly sounds, my ambiguity on this, my vague description makes it sound way more intriguing than it actually
We
is.
know. We
So
all know. We know who. We know it was James Gunn.
it's yeah. I mean, he demanded to read every script that comes in instead of just vomiting out series and movies. So I told him that's a deal breaker. I need full creative control. So so anyway, I had to walk away from Mr. Gunn. Well, I mean, what has he ever done? Anyway, sorry. Um, where were we at?
Well,
I don't
I
even
interrupted.
remember.
I kind of derailed that whole thing. So you're in development mode, looking at low hanging fruit and going, "What's going to get me to the next project?"
Yeah. So the other opportunity that comes with that I've found is that it can be a time to develop uh, stuff that, I mean, any of us who work in this industry know that, or we all have in our back pocket, those ideas, our darlings that we just would love to see come to fruition in some capacity, some way. And so that development time does also offer up an opportunity to say, okay, how do I get to that point? And one of the biggest lessons that I have learned, and that I try to share with any like 20-year-old kid who comes and says, "Oh, I heard you're in film. Can you answer questions for me?" is that nobody cares how passionate you are about your idea. You have to make that sell in what you do and how you execute on it in every chapter. So I as I was in the throes of a scripture study talk show, Come Follow Up, I reached a point where I was like, I just need to go after something that I'm really, really passionate about, just as a complete outlet from everything
It's a
else.
palate cleanser.
And that was the birthplace of this little thing called Apocalypse Sasquatch, which we shot like 2 years ago, and I still haven't even released it. It's done.
It
It's
is done.
like
It's
finished.
brilliant.
But so I'm gonna publish it. Maybe talking about it on here will get me to a place where I can get it out there. But the approach to that was interesting because I had to. I didn't want to be in a place where I would just say people are going to be as passionate about my idea as I am. It just doesn't work. There's no, if you're listening to this, or anybody else, or sitting there dreaming your dreams, and you think that Netflix is going to come knocking at your door, it's not going to happen. That's just not how the business
I need
works.
that on a T-shirt as
Uh,
well, Darren. Let's
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
please, Michael.
And I've talked to so many people who are like, "Oh, I have this idea. It's an epic 9-part fantasy film." They're pitching Avatar to me, and I'm like, "Okay, that's great, but there's so much groundwork that needs to be laid here." So anyway, So, and again, I'm saying all this knowing that this experiment has yet to bear any fruit, but the iterative process that I tried to take is, okay, I'm going to start with, the project is not to make a movie called Apocalypse Sasquatch. Right now, the project is to write something that sells the concept of Apocalypse Sasquatch. And so I wrote a 10-page story about it. And I've always approached those kind of things as like, well, this is going to be the first scene of the movie. That's what I'm going to write, or the most important scene of the movie, or whatever. But this was different in that I was like, I've got to layer the exposition with the action, and just kind of like, what's the exact moment, regardless of anything else. What's the exact moment I need to land in and create for someone to say, oh my gosh, I can't believe that works. And so once I got to that point with the script of just removing it from being a feature, removing it from any idea of it being anything other than that, then I could actually write something. My writer's block disappeared. I wrote the whole thing. The first draft is kind of where it stayed, and it just worked. It flowed, and then I showed it to Adam here at Go Films, and he was like, "Cool, let's do it. Let's make it." So we called in all of our friends and favors, and found this really cool A-frame cabin up in Midway, and shot the thing in 2 days, and it was awesome. So, and then I got excited and made posters, and we had a premiere we had a screening we booked a theater and had a screening. We had like 75 people there. It was a blast. But the idea is now what I have is something that I could manageably make, and I believe that it successfully showcases, oh my gosh, you can actually do that. That's ridiculous that you can tell that story or set up that premise. Like, it's stupid. The whole concept, I mean, it's called Apocalypse Sasquatch. There's like, the whole point is, and the tagline is, who names a Sasquatch Jason? It's supposed to be absurd. Like, that's the whole thing. But it's a proof of concept, and I feel like it proves the concept. So now I'm starting to explore, like, okay, how do I take that and use this as a tool to build a feature idea for this.
So
This is an awesome tee up for something I wanted to talk to you about, but
100% for it.
Yeah, but I want to highlight an idea here first, in that which you just explained perfectly, the difference in value in the marketplace between an idea and the execution of that idea. And the execution is the multiplier. That's the thing that makes something something. There are millions of filmmakers with great ideas that if only someone would give them a chance, it would turn into something great. Instead of saying, I'm just going to figure out how to do this, and I'm going to make the smallest version that I can, or the biggest version as I can with the resources I have. So you did that, and you've done it before. And that's kind of our connection here. We were talking before about Garrett is our Kevin Bacon 1 degree connection between the two of us.
I'll take it.
Because you produced the teaser for the Carpenter, which I ended up going out to South Africa and producing with Garrett. But the movie wouldn't have happened if you guys hadn't taken that idea and executed the smallest version that you could, or the biggest version that you could at the time with the resources, money you had. I don't know. I can't decide if it's the smallest or biggest version, apparently. But you went out with the resources you had and you made a teaser. So tell us about that and how that played into, and Garrett, you can chime in too, because you've got the maybe more fuller picture, but like the idea of, you're doing it again with Apocalypse Sasquatch. You did it with the Carpenter, this idea of going and producing a teaser to have a proof of concept that then leads to a feature.
This is definitely Garrett's. It was Garrett's baby from the get go. I don't know if he'll resent me for claiming that, but I was just happy to be a part of this show. To have him reach out and ask me to be a part of this small team that was going to go out to Texas and shoot this thing in the middle of summer, in the middle of COVID.
Sorry about that.
But we have a lifelong bond with the team that we worked with now, because we all endured.
We do. We still have like a somewhat active text thread with inside jokes and everything of the 4 people that were out there.
Yeah, with Chiggers and Whataburger. That was that. Yeah, I feel like I can't say Chiggers on a podcast. Sorry, look it up. It's a real thing. If you don't
Those
know,
little bugs that bite you. But
yeah, I've
yeah.
got still got scars, but yeah. Sorry. Anyway, um, no, I'm trying to recall uh, a lot of the details from that because again, it was COVID. It was mid
Well,
2020, right?
yeah, and kind of here's what really stood out to me, both Darren, with what you're talking about as far as the Carpenter, but also this Apocalypse Sasquatch, McKay, where I think you have this. Yeah, I mean, you just epitomize this independent mindset of like, I'm not going to let the what is 3 steps down the road interfere or inhibit or stop me from doing what is the first step down the road. You know what? I love what you said about I'm going to write the script, and I'm not going to write the script because I think I got to write a bigger script for the movie. I'm going to write the idea that's in my head, which is this short about Apocalypse Sasquatch. I love hearing that story because when I showed up on set of Apocalypse Sasquatch and saw everybody's passionate about it, I think I may have even had this conversation with you saying, okay, so what's the plan, or what are we doing? Like, where are you going with this? And I think you have this ability to just kind of shrug and be like, I don't know, I don't care. Like, that wasn't it. It was
The
about
plan is to make
making
this
this
movie.
thing
That
right
was
now, or in the moment right now. Okay,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
very freeing. I think that's
Mhm.
probably what's the biggest inhibitor of my projects is like, well, what about when I get to distribution, or how am I going to handle this? And you have a way to
Yeah.
dismiss all that.
I refused in fact, it was a conscious decision that I refused to acknowledge anything other than the next phase because I knew if I started talking about it in those terms, then it would change how I approached the short creatively. And I knew it was what it needed to be. And if I started to make changes, it would be making changes off of a potential hypothetical, which is, two different variables that are ridiculous. Then you put them together and it's a hot mess. So, and I've spent so many years fighting against these potential hypotheticals and um,
I think that's why,
instead of just saying what's right in front of
and
me
that's what
and do
that
that.
played so well in the Carpenter, the short, of saying, what, this is it. So, McKay, how can I get you to focus? Or, McKay, can I get you to help me with this thing? And I'm thinking, oh, it's going to be this great big feature film. We had no idea we were going to shoot in Africa or anything. And you looked at
Yeah,
it as, hey, for the week in Texas, we're going to go sweat it out and make the best thing that we can right now for the resources that we have. Whatever happens,
yeah.
let's address that when it happens.
I do remember because we were getting caught up in story. Like there was a lot of figuring out what exactly was going to be shot, and so I do remember having those conversations about well, what's the coolest thing we can do that sells the
What are we
story?
trying to do?
Let's
The
just
pitch sells the
yeah,
pitch. God,
yep,
you do have this overarching plan. It's amazing.
Oh,
Well,
very
very
cool.
cool. Well, yeah, and it did result. Both of well, certainly Carpenter resulted in a movie that it was my widest distributed film, and but both of you guys, I owe so much credit to for that. And I can only imagine Apocalypse Sasquatch. I mean, it potentially could be like the next Sharknado or whatever it is. Yes, it's absurd, and you know what it is, and it's going to own what it is. And it doesn't. You don't even make any mention yet of the that comes in at the end of it. Like, this movie has.
dude,
Oh, did I just
you
spoil it?
can't drop spoilers.
Okay,
No,
Oh,
watch it. No, watch it, everybody.
we can't
no,
watch it. He hasn't released it yet. We're gonna hold you to it on
yeah,
this. I want a date
You're going to
for the
see
release of
that
I know.
this
and
thing
the
so
movie,
I
and
can
it's
go
going to.
watch.
I accidentally published it once and not realizing that it was live on
Oh,
YouTube. And the next day it had like 500 views and a bunch of comments. I hadn't done anything to it. It was just there.
oh, you
But,
took the old Deadpool
so
approach, huh? The old, yeah,
yeah,
nice.
yeah, without the built-in audience.
You're gonna
But
leak it,
yeah,
and yeah.
I'm gonna see if I've got some distant connections to Ryan Reynolds. Maybe I can get him
You
on
know,
board.
There you go.
be Jason. Uh,
Yeah.
well, very fun. Okay, McKay. So uh, I I have a kind of a final question. Like, how you said you're in the development mode, and you kind of joked about procrastination, or maybe that wasn't a joke, but cleaning my office and sorting coins and counter coins. For our independent filmmakers, including me out there, how do you keep going when it is development mode and when all you have on your horizon is, okay, here's a client project I might be bored with, or here's this that they're not going to really want to do what I'm passionate about. Is it the Apocalypse Sasquatches or distractions that keep you going, or what advice do you have for a filmmaker that says, how do I just not give up?
Yeah, for me, it's having realistic milestones that aren't dependent on any other individual. That is a core part of my motivation and staying with it, because anybody can make a movie, but not everybody can tell a story. And it's the combination of those two things that is what makes independent filmmaking worth it, and what makes it actually work, and what brings its value. There's hundreds of movies released every year, and how many of them have stories? I don't know. A lot of them are spectacle. A lot of them are tax write-offs. They're just out there, and it's big studio movies. They have their place and they have their value, but they're most often, if you can see it, they're most often not as concerned with what the story is. And so, for me, I have to latch on to whatever world I'm building, and then pair that with the practicality of a milestone, of saying, what do I need to illustrate what this world is? And so I will just start putting that together, and figure out for myself if that means I'm writing a spec script, or a just putting together a deck, or shooting for a proof of concept film, or whatever. Every project has its own iteration, or its own different milestones that are valuable. But but I have to see what those milestones are, because it just gives me something to work towards. And if I don't, my ADHD brain's too wild for me to be able to. I can't stop the pinball machine unless I have what that next milestone is, and then I can focus that crazy energy into a target, rather than just writing my epic dystopian sci-fi and trying to pitch it then reading it to my wife as a bedtime story every night so that she can fall asleep. So, which that is dead and gone. It will never see the light of day. But anyway, I don't know if that answered your question, but
It did. I forgot my question.
so it was such a good answer that you forgot
No,
what the
no, I'm just
question
kidding.
was.
No, it
Feels
did.
complete.
It's a good to hear that there are things to do to continue to fill your time as a filmmaker that are going to keep you motivated and inspired and focused. Awesome.
Yeah.
McKay, brilliant, man. Thank you very much for joining us on this. Is this a season finale? Daren, are we calling this season finale? We're going to focus on
Ooh, I don't
production.
know. I don't have my money raised yet. Do you? I think that's our metric, is if we're in development, or like we have money committed, then we can shift into season 3 pre-production.
It's going to be the
We'll get there
longest
shortly.
season 2 ever.
We'll get
No, McKay, thank you very much, man. It's so we need to get together and figure out if we bid on the same project.
Yeah, yeah. Jerk.
amazing.
Just kidding.
Okay, thanks so much for joining us today. It was great to finally meet you. Hopefully we can meet in person at some point. And thank you. Appreciate you taking the time.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Sweet. Oh, it's good to finally meet that guy.
I can't believe you've never met McKay. I mean, it's a small
I can't
industry
believe it
here,
either.
and you guys are
I
both
know.
producing.
I know. Sometimes the same movie. And we still haven't met each other. Yeah, no,
Yeah, that's cool.
maybe we've crossed paths before, but I don't have a recollection of like "Hey, McKay, I'm Daren. It's nice to finally meet you." Like, I don't
Yeah.
think I've ever met him in person. So,
Well, good. Well, to you and everybody else who's listening, he's a good guy to know. Like, yeah, he's so tapped in to every aspect of film, of independent film, and he just kind of figures out how to wrap his brain around what needs to be done.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell, like, some I always love when IMDb shows, like, a quarter of the credits that someone has because they just don't care about uploading. You know,
Right.
I try to stay on top of that because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, everybody needs to know everything I've done." But I know that he's done a lot more than the internet would, tell you. Apocalypse Sasquatch, that sounds like an amazing project that I cannot wait to see legitimately.
I need to have lunch with him and convince him to do that because it would go huge. It could be so
It's
fun.
crazy. I don't
Uh,
understand the mindset of, "Let's make something and then not release it." But hopefully today kind of nudged him a little bit.
yeah, yeah, that's good. That's very good.
Any updates on your projects that you want to share?
Okay, we're greenlit on this a short film, which would be fun.
Nice.
And again, this is the one that where McKay was talking about, hey, find something that you can be passionate about relating to the project. This is one that I'm excited to get to do because it's a total throwback to like low budge, independent student filmmaker mode. And
Nice.
so we'll be filming that uh, um, in the next couple of weeks. And I don't know, we'll get some footage maybe for some BTS and talk about it here.
Yeah.
Um, it should be
Awesome.
fun. And then yeah, I mean a couple of other projects are gaining momentum, which is nice. I've got a feature film that's looking likely that will go into development, or excuse me, in pre-production. I guess development still, but um, I don't know. The things that
Yeah.
I'm excited about, I always hesitate on how much to talk about it because things change so much.
I know.
But it's always that
When money's
it's like
committed, then
that
it can
that
always
that
go away.
precipice of hope. Like,
Yeah. No, I
am
feel
I
that.
allowed to hope yet?
Yeah. That's awesome. I've been getting a couple of inquiries around, like, it's interesting because I think people have pegged me as a faith-based producer now with these last two movies, which is not
Yeah,
a bad thing, but I don't want to only be that to the industry. But it's benefiting me in that I've had two or three different inquiries in the last few weeks from people saying, "Hey, I know you guys have a project that's streaming on Angel and doing well. We want to do a torch for them. Can we hire you, whether it's as a producer, as a consultant, or to be involved with helping us get this across the finish line?" I was like, "Yeah, we could talk." I'm full on fundraising mode, so I can't like go do a feature right now. That feels like if I went and did a feature, that's 2 months of my life that is not dedicated to raising money for the fund. But taking a week or two to go shoot a torch, that could be cool. So we'll see if any of those pan out. But yeah, same thing. You never know. Even if money's committed or a project is verbally going it forward, you don't know unless the contract's signed and money's in the bank. And so
yeah,
I just keep chugging along.
yeah. Well, I'm excited for honestly kind of the next phase of Truly Independent. What that season three. I know we kind of joke casually about the seasons and stuff like that, uh, and technically it would be a season four. But just what this next chapter is. And so, just again, thank you to our listeners who have supported it and kind of listened to all episodes, all phases. But and stay tuned because there are some changes that, or I guess iterations or evolutions
Yeah, it feels
of
like
directions we're going to
culminations
go.
maybe of like the stuff we've been talking about for a year. Yeah, we went through the release of two movies, but now it's been 6 months or so that we've been talking about how do you get projects greenlit? How do you get the ideas in your head into execution phase? And so, yeah, we kind of set out with season two going, yeah, season three is next, but we don't know when, and we still don't know when. It happens when it happens, but that's a little bit meta for people going, yeah, even the show that we're producing to talk about the work that we're doing as producing movies is in limbo as far as how long this phase takes. We don't know. So I love that. It's very inside baseball.
That's interesting. Interesting. Okay. Well, good. Well, great. Any other notes? Are we good to wrap up the episode?
I think we're good today. That was a fun one. I hope people take a lot away from it, and we'll let you know when the t-shirts are available for purchase.
Okay, man. Thanks. Nice to chat with you.
Thanks, Garrett. See you. Thank you for listening to this episode of Truly Independent. To join us on the journey, be notified and ask us questions about today's episode, head over to 3coinpro.com/podcast and put in your name and an email address. If you're a fan of the show, please leave us a review on your favorite podcast app and be sure to share this. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Our intro and outro music is Election Time by Kjartan Abel.